Hey there, Danielle Matthews here. I'm coming to you live from Florida. Today's Monday, so it's book club day. We are in the midst of reading Loyalty to Your Soul. So this is an interesting book. It's all about spiritual psychology. I had not heard of the authors. This was something that, based on all of our previous book clubs, when I was talking with ChatGPT, it recommended this book. It said that this is right in alignment and would be beneficial for all of us. So here we are. Chapter 2 was quite lengthy, so we are finishing out chapter 2 today. So it's page 30 is where we are, and I am curious, for those of you that are joining me live, let me know when you get here. If you are joining the replay, let me know you're catching the replay. If you've got any questions, always put them in here, and I will respond to them, or any insights, because there's so much that's shared in these. So the first thing I want to ask you is, have you ever felt like fear is holding you back? You know, the very first time I came to the Amrit Yoga Institute and I did a training, at the end of the training on our graduation day, it was like a 10-day training, we got our certificates that we were certified, to teach Yoga Nidra, guided meditation, and they told us we could lay something at the foot of the guru and basically give something that you didn't want to hold within yourself anymore. You wanted to give it externally to the guru to hold for you, right? To something bigger, to an entity beyond you to be able to handle it. And I sat there the evening before, our graduation thinking, wow, what an opportunity. Like, if there was one thing that I could hand over and put at the foot of the guru, what would I want to put there? Like, what would I want to let go of? And what came to me was fear, because in my life, the one thing that I think has limited me the most is when fear pops up. And I thought, I want to surrender fear. I want to let go of fear, and I want to be able to move through life without it. Or if it comes, I want to visually think about handing it over to the guru. And it's interesting because last week in the discussion here, hey Tina, good to see you. Last week in the discussion on this book club, was talking about and discussing all of these challenges that we face as we start to spiritually awaken, as we start to realize, wait a second, there is way more to this life than just like going out and achieving in the physical world. And those people that have had success, you kind of get there and you go, well, now what? It's not everything that our mind cracks it up to be. There's actually a spiritual journey that is happening. There's a reason that your soul is here. There are lessons layered on top of all the things that you're experiencing in life that you are actually meant to be learning. And so he says, when he was talking last week, he was talking about all these different challenges that happen as you start to awaken. Hey, Lou, good to see you. And what I sensed and what he kind of points out is that fear, the dynamic of fear, is sort of underlying all of it. And so he offers some tips, right, that you can incorporate, some qualities to incorporate into yourself, right, in order to be able to face fear. So let's go over some of these qualities. He says, number one, reverence. Reverence for the great mystery of life itself and its possibilities. I know sometimes if my mind is getting the most of me, like at night, I'll go up and I'll just look at the stars. And I don't know about you, but for me, what it does for me is it just like, there is a reverence that gets created within me of just like, wow, like what an incredible world I am a part of. I don't even know how I got here. I feel blessed to be here, and like, don't take me because I want to keep, living this out. And there's just something about looking up at the night sky that for me makes me feel so little. It makes all the fears in my mind just sort of shrink away, because it's like, there's something so much grander happening that I really don't know about, right? I do not know. And it does that for me. So a reverence for the great mystery of life itself. Number two, willingness. I like this. He says, a willingness to question basic assumptions about what's true, because most of what people have learned while growing up is either not true at all, partially true, or seriously distorted. So it's willingness. It's to just be like, okay, maybe I don't know. I think the more I have learned, the more I realize I don't know what I don't know. And so I just stay open. And I love how different people come into my life, and because of the way they were brought up and the way that things have happened in their life, their viewpoints are totally different. It's one of the reasons I've loved working my ASEA business, because my network is now global. It's all around the world. And it's so amazing looking at how different cultures even approach things and look at things. And it'll deepen you if you have a willingness to just sort of put aside any preconceived notions or judgment and just be open. The next is humility. And I think that willingness requires humility. You have to humble yourself. And also bear in mind, he says that no human being is in control. there is some humility to realizing there is a larger dynamic at play, and we have to humble ourselves to it. The fourth is perseverance. And this is true. I mean, with fear, right? It's like it tries to just invade everything. But perseverance is to hang in there when some of the more difficult patterns or negativity are surfacing. I just made a post this morning on Instagram and Facebook talking about how we pattern through, and our soul, right? Earth is a school. Our soul came here to learn certain lessons. And if we are not learning the lesson, it's not like the lesson goes away and we move on to the next one. No, you don't get to move on to the next one till you learn it. And so it will pattern back. It will keep coming. It will come in a different disguise, in a different dynamic, a different relationship, a different person, a different circumstance. It waits. And if you don't listen, it gets louder, right? Who can relate with that? High five me, put a 5 in the chat if you can relate with that. And he's talking about perseverance. You need to have the perseverance to be able to say, okay, despite all of this stuff, despite the fact that I keep whacking my head against the same lesson again and again and again, I'm going to keep going because it's worth it. Self-compassion. I watch this with a lot of the students that I work with. Yes, high five, Robert. So with a lot of the students I work with, I see them beating themselves up because they're like, oh, again, I fell into this habit. Again, I did this. No, have self-compassion. Like, this is the human journey. We're not going to get it right. When you learn to walk, you fell down so many times. And you didn't beat yourself up. It's like, oh, I'm learning how to walk. Great. So self-compassion for our humanness, all right? And to be able to proceed through this process, to live a more conscious life and give yourself grace as you do it. Then he says clear intention to continue awakening. So when fear comes in and it wants to take over, it's just, nope, set that aside. I am moving forward in this process. And the last one is great courage, to face the fear that accompanies awakening. And I think for me, I love the acronym false evidence appearing real. Fear. It's an illusion. It is a complete illusion. I teach this in my Inner Management Mastery. It's one of the, I forget which lesson it is, but it's like once you realize, in Eastern philosophy, they call it Maya, the illusion that the ego mind puts over us that makes us think all of this is real, and it's not. Okay? And he talks about the good news is that there are blessings as you start to awaken. And I want to kind of go through because he pulled them out and I thought they were beautiful to talk about. So awakening, right, is just the expanding of your own conscious level of awareness. That's really what we're looking at. And this effort, he calls it, to live in a space of more loving compassion. But number one that starts to happen is clarity. You literally see the illusion for what it is, and you see the purpose beyond it. Okay, the soul's lesson. So I was reading a book, I don't know, sometime between last book club and this book club, and it was really interesting. It was talking about, well, I won't get into it, but it was talking about like lessons that souls have, and it was talking about a dynamic of a mother who had lost her son. Her son was a drug addict. And in this, it was like through past life regression, through hypnosis, they're able to bring up insight into what was the soul meant to learn. And the learning in that lifetime for the drug addict was to be able to experience unconditional love. So here this mother was beating herself up because she felt like, I failed my son. What did I do wrong in his upbringing that he became a drug addict? All of these things. But no. The life path for that soul, the lesson for that soul coming into this life was realizing no matter what I do, I can experience unconditional love. And the mother's unconditional love for the son who was going through this drug addiction was what the soul was meant to learn. Isn't that wild? So there's layers to life that we just don't understand, right? We understand this physical world, the heartbreak. I mean, the son actually killed himself on the mother's birthday. I mean, it was a suicide because he was like, I just can't break this addiction. But the truth was the soul had completed the lesson plan. That's why it was time to go, because it had experienced unconditional love for over 25 years. And it was like, okay, the lesson is complete. Just fascinating. So I just, when you have this clarity, is what he's talking about, you see the illusion of what we think is happening. There is a layer to what is happening that is so far beyond anything we can understand with our human mind, because it's the soul's journey. All right. And the soul's journey is so different. Does that make sense? I don't know if that hit for you guys the way it hit me, but as I was reading that clarity, I was like, yeah, it's like there's something deeper happening that we don't know. All right. Number 2, acceptance. He talks about how you start to see others as divine beings, and you see their circumstances of life as learning lessons. You stop having preference. I don't have it next to me, but I have this yin yang, and I'm able to pull it apart, right? And it's like when the yin yang is together, you're in unity, and you're able to see the ups and the downs, the good and the bad. You see how one feeds into the other, and that it's all part of the same whole. Unfortunately, a lot of times we pull those things apart, right? You see the polarity, and then we have preference. I want good, I don't want bad. I always want up, I never want down. I always want happy, I never want sad. I always want success, right? I don't want failure. And that creates a world where you live in duality. So as you start to awaken, you start to come back, and you start to see the beauty of the polarity of life. And you start to just rest with it. You start to accept it, and you see the whole. That's what he's talking about here. All right. And then he says joy and good humor. You realize it's not dependent on external circumstances, but rather is an inner choice. And that inner choice, in mastery is sort of the culmination of all of the teachings, right? Learn to live with an open heart. Learn to just experience joy because it's a choice. You choose to open, you choose to close, and you don't need the external conditions to be met to have your heart open, to experience joy. All right. Then he talks about how compassion will increase as you start to awaken, and you truly start to see the needs of others, and you start to not be judgmental to others, and you start to just have compassion for understanding, wow, this soul in this lifetime is learning a really intense lesson, and this poor human mind doesn't understand, and it's suffering. And so you just have compassion because you're like, I've been there. I've been suffering through my life too until I had, this awakening. All right, and then the last one is love. And what he talks about is that really this comes into the principle number 4, the nature of God is love, and you start to experience that all the time, right? Living with an open heart, and you start to realize that's what it's all about, getting more and more in touch with your loving nature. So I thought that was pretty interesting, or I guess that was principle 3, because principle 4, he describes on page 32. Principle 4, right, these are principles of spiritual psychology. I didn't know there were principles, but we're learning them together. He says, principle 4, since we are all part of God, our nature is also love, and we have the opportunity to know our loving nature experientially here and now. That's what it's all about, right? That's why we're here. It's to experience that's within us. And he says, it's really interesting. I don't know if this hit for you all. This hit for me. But he said, it becomes clear that self-worth and a sense of value, which are commodities that we're always striving for, right? We're trying to make ourselves feel like we have value, feel like we're worthy. And he says, you start to realize that they are nothing more than mental constructs, and they have no meaning, because you are valuable simply because you are divine. There is divinity within you, and inherent in that is your value. Every single living person and thing. It's all divinely made. We're all waves of the same ocean. And that divinity is there, period, full stop. Right? You don't have to do anything, prove anything, nothing. All right? Self-worth, self-value, all that stuff is just a mental construct. I underlined that because I thought, wow, a lot of people, and me for a long time too, was just striving to make myself feel worthy by achieving things in the world. And then I came to realize that's not getting me anywhere. It doesn't actually do anything. and the value is intrinsic. It's within me. Okay? Does that resonate with you guys? Put a 1 in the chat if you're with me, because I think that's a really valuable lesson to understand. And he said, you will see that the idea of needing to earn worth and value is irrelevant as needing to earn the air that you breathe. It's just like, no, you can breathe this air, fine. You are worthy, fine, because of that divinity. Okay? And then he kind of finished up this chapter with some practices that we could do. And I'll just review them because I do think they're interesting, and I would be curious to know if you all practice them. So Charlotte's saying 1, Kim's 1, yeah. So the practices were twofold. Part 1 is seeing the loving essence. He describes this as the first is attitudinal, a way of being, and can be practical all by itself. We call it seeing the loving essence, which is the practice of seeing yourself and others through the eyes of loving. It involves moving into a frame of reference where you begin seeing everyone as a divine being having a human experience, regardless of what's going on in the individual's physical world reality, all right, or even between the two of you. This is the beautiful greeting of Namaste. So namaste is basically saying, I bow to that. I bow to that within you. I bow to that God within you. I bow to the divinity within you. The divinity in me sees the divinity in you. That's the namaste greeting. Aloha. Very similar. I heard Tulsi Gabbard sharing a little bit more about the aloha, and it's the same kind of greeting. It's about seeing the God within you and saying hello to that, right? Going beyond the ego, going beyond the persona that's here, but saying, I see you for your true essence. There's a saying in the lineage I study. They say Jai Bhagwan. Jai means victory, and Bhagwan means to God, to the spirit, right? So they say Jai Bhagwan, victory to the spirit within you. That's the greeting. It's the hello, it's the goodbye. It's a constant reminder that, yeah, the purpose of this life is the soul's development. So victory to that spirit in this lifetime. All right, it's amazing to me that there are so many in more of these ancient cultures that were very connected. They have these sayings, right? And we seem to have lost it in modern times. Our egos have sort of taken over. Our intellect thinks it's figured out the world, and it's like, oh, you figured out nothing, because fear's still here, insecurity's still here, and when you have this spiritual evolution is when those things go away. Okay, so did anyone do this? I'm wondering if any of you this week in your interactions, you just, maybe you didn't say namaste, but you had the feeling of that, right? Heart open, I'm just seeing the divine in you. It's something I try to do always. It's something I think since I was little, I've always seen that. I remember, maybe I've shared this with you guys, like I got confirmed, I was brought up Methodist, got confirmed as a teenager, and then I said to my parents, like, well, if I'd been born somewhere else, like we'd have a different religion, like what makes this one right? And they said, well, you're right, Danielle. And I said, well, I don't want to go back. They didn't give me the answers of what I feel. And what I have always felt is when I look in somebody's eyes, I see God. I have felt that since I was a little kid. And it's just, I see it everywhere. I see it in nature. I see it in animals. When I look in someone's eyes, I just see divinity. It's been it. And it wasn't until after my car accident, after I ended up, at the Amrit Yoga Institute, understanding Eastern philosophy, understanding spirituality, that's exactly what spirituality says. That, yes, the divinity is within you, it's within me, and we honor that and we look at that. And so seeing the loving essence is just that. It's just seeing that in the other. I had somebody say to me, I use my work in this way. It's like, that's what I speak to when I speak to everybody in my coaching, in my support of my ASEA team, in my one-on-one work with people. I just speak to that because I know that all the mind stuff, all the ego stuff, it's just like, it's a filter. They're sunglasses. They're not seeing reality. They don't realize their potential. And I had a lady say to me, why are you spending so much time helping me? Like, you have such a big organization. Like, why are you helping me start my business? Why are you helping me sign up just like one person? Like, why are you doing this? And I said, because I see the same potential in you that I see in everyone. And I'm going to speak into that. It's your choice whether you want to step into it fully, but like, it's sitting there for you to have. And I'm going to speak into it, and I'm going to act as if you are the next, diamond, right? And I think diamonds have the ability to pull this out of themselves. So just an interesting thing that's sort of in the network marketing space, but whatever you're doing, it's important to speak to that. And even if you got kids, like, for sure speak to that within them, like pull them to this higher state. Lou says, I get that about you. You see the good because you look for it. You welcome it. Yeah. Like, why do I want to deal with all the BS of people's minds? I don't. I want to deal with the divinity in them. Tina says, what a gift. Yeah, it is a gift. It's a gift, and it's a gift all of us have. It's just a choice of how we meet people, right? Because if you meet people, if your ego meets another ego, what happens? But if an ego meets an open heart that's looking at the divinity, all of a sudden the ego, it's received, and when it's received, the heart opens. It's incredible. All of you have that power. All right. Heart-centered living is the next part. He says, we refer to the second part, or it's not living, listening. Heart-centered listening, and we refer to the second part as this. And he talks about then sort of like the 4 aspects of good listening. I'll briefly hit them. Number 1, content. A lot of people believe like, oh, I've mastered listening because I can parrot back whatever somebody said. He actually says like, listening to the exact content of somebody's words is like a relatively small portion of how most of us communicate. The next thing is tonality. It really matters, like the energy upon which the communication rides. How was it said? That tonality carries a lot. Okay. The third is listening to the person. Okay, listening with the consciousness, he says, of the attitude of namaste. You're listening with a heart open. Your ego is quiet, your mind is quiet, and you're simply receiving them. The divine in you is listening and honoring the divine in them and is sitting patiently listening. It's different to listen with your mind versus listen with your heart. It's different. They will come away feeling like they've truly been seen and heard. This is a gift that all of you can offer people. That when you listen to them, drop your ego and just see the divine in them, sit back and listen from that space within you. It's called listening with an open heart. You're not listening with your mind, you're listening with your heart. The person will feel so held, so received, and they'll just be so grateful. All right, and then the fourth is, and this is what happens, when you listen from that space, you see the meaning behind what's actually happening. All right, you see the deeper meaning behind the content. I remember my teacher was teaching me one time. She said, look, when you run workshops, when you run classes, you're going to have people that ask questions, and there's meaning behind the question. What they're asking isn't always what they're saying, so listen. And I was like, what is she talking about? And then she started to give examples, and she said, if you have someone that constantly just has to raise their hand and they're saying something or they're pushing you on a little itty bitty points, she said, what's beneath all of that is just a need to be heard, a need to be seen. And so what you need to do, you don't even need to answer the question. You just say, nice point, thank you. And then you move on. Rather than trying to go into diving deep into something that they don't really care. They just want to show, they want to be seen. It's like the little kid in them that never got to be seen. And so when you're listening in this way, you see beyond it. This is how I coach. And when I work with people one-on-one, like they're telling me one thing, their words are telling me one thing, but the energy behind what they're saying is a completely different story. And I can feel energetically when I'm bumping up against something, a limiting belief, whatever it might be. And so thankfully, some people I can point it out to. Other people I've gotten angry because I see it for what it is and I call it out. And so I'm calling out things that are uncomfortable, stuff that people don't want to actually deal with, right? Like the need to be seen, the need to be heard. And I just feel like, look, what is the point of me being in your life if I'm not going to help you get better and if you can't see these things, right? Sometimes we have to point these out to other people in a gentle way, always, but I have been known to trigger people because I see it so clearly. And then I say, hey, you might want to reflect on this. Because to me, like, why else would I be in their life and why would I be able to be seeing it so clearly unless to just offer a mirror for a minute? And some people can receive it and some people can't, and that's okay. But I at least point it out nicely to people and say, hey, you might want to work on this. What I'm actually hearing behind all of this is actually, you don't have faith in yourself. You're afraid of being rejected, whatever it is, right? And we work on that. I'm like, master that thing. You're like, you are worth it, whatever it is. All right. So guys, people yearn to be truly heard and received. I'm telling you, when a person feels heard, it changes everything. And you can offer that. They feel loved. That's what happens. So I'm sure like you felt it, put in the chat, who is the best listener that you know? Who in your life is the best listener that you know? They just receive. They don't pop in and try and give advice. They don't cut you off. They don't try to finish your sentence. They just sit there and they just hold the space and they just receive you. It is so healing. When I do yoga therapy, a lot of the training in yoga therapy is literally don't go in and try to fix. Don't go in and try to support. Don't go in and try to help. Hold the space because the space is comfort. The space is a loving presence that you are holding for others where they feel safe to come forth with all their emotions and stuff. So Christine says she's the best listener. Nice. Wonderful. Well, you're a gift to the people that are in your world. Okay. Watch what they do or watch what it is that you do and then see how you can do that for others, right? Give what it is you're wanting to receive. That is the trick in life. Okay. And then reflect on, well, how are you as a listener? Like, are you someone that's always just listening, ready to tell the person why they're wrong, or ready to say to the person, no, you need to do this, or ready to jump in with your opinion? You think you're such a good listener that you know the exact right thing to say after somebody speaks? No, sometimes the right thing to say after somebody speaks is silence. It's nothing. You just receive it, right? And then maybe something drops in to say, but maybe not. Okay. All right. The soul-centered practice, he kind of like shares how to, and maybe like bookmark this, because if you're in a relationship, guaranteed there's issues around communication and maybe being a good listener. And so look at this with your significant other, not in the heat of the moment, but just say like, hey, can we practice this? This is something I want to practice. This really resonated with me. Can you read this? So they can understand like the 8 steps. And he talked about, and I thought how interesting that he used this example. He talked about women from Israel and Palestine. Kind of interesting given what's happening in current events right now. But what they talked about was, and also interesting that like this dynamic has gone on for a long time, decades, hundreds of years. But he's saying what we were able to do with these Israeli women and these Palestinian women was have them sit down and see the divine within one another and have a conversation from that space, and then to realize we're not that different and we actually do want the same things, and how healing it is and was to be fully heard. All right, just beautiful, a beautiful example. And I think wherever you're struggling in your life, maybe it's with your kids, maybe it's with a spouse, partner, parents, siblings, whatever it is, see if you can do this. And the other person doesn't have to agree to do it. You know, I always love how people say, oh, my husband should be here. Oh, so-and-so should be here. Oh, my parents need to listen to this. No, you need to be here. You need to listen to it. Be the change you want to see in the world, right? You need to be it. You need to be the one receiving with an open heart, listening with an open heart, not letting your mind jump in, not letting judgments jump in, just receiving the other person. It's deeply healing. And it will change them. You be the one. Like the Israeli and Palestinian woman, they said at the beginning, like neither one of them would drop into their heart and do the exercise. Then eventually one did, and it was healing for both of them. And so you just be the one to do it. All right, don't wait for the other person. So this book, I kind of like it. He has these stem sentences at the end of each. And so I don't know if you guys wrote down. If you did, put it into the chat. But he had 4 stem sentences to help you kind of process through what's being shared, sort of the core messages and principles of the chapter. So the first sentence is, if the nature of God is love, then ... And I'll just share what came through for me, and I would love if you want to put in the chat what came through for you. But if the nature of God is love, then I am surrounded by love always, and I am love. I am a mask. There is only a mask, that is keeping me from it, my ego. That's what I wrote. Right? If the nature of God is love, then I'm surrounded by love all the time, because everything's God. And I myself am love. And the only thing keeping me from it is the mask of my own ego, from experiencing it out there and experiencing it internally. Next one. If the nature of my soul is love, then I wrote, my true expression is love. And living with an open heart pours this out into all and allows me to also receive it. Again, if you had something, please write it. I think these are just beautiful, beautiful things. The next sentence starter, I can practice seeing the loving essence when, and I said, when I see the divine in everyone, and for me, it is through their eyes. Like I shared with you earlier, it is through people's eyes that I see it, and so I try to look for people's eyes and look in their eyes when they're talking, and I keep eye contact. The last sentence starter, I can practice heart-centered listening when, and I wrote, when I quiet my own mind and receive fully what is being shared in every conversation. It is amazing that when you quiet your own mind chatter, you can do that through breath work, you can do that through just dropping into your heart, whatever it is. When you do that, you will be able to actually listen to what is being shared and the meaning behind it. All right, so that you can actually address the conversation. So, all right. Next week, guys, prepare your sentence starters. I want to hear them and what you wrote after. So next week, we're going to read chapter 3. Now, it's a long chapter, but I went through it, and I think it's enough for us to discuss in one. I mean, it is page 41 to 58. It's long, but it's a story. And so there's just pieces to pick up from the story. But I do think we can discuss the whole chapter next week. Okay, so we'll do all of chapter 3 next week. There are 6 sentence starters at the end of chapter 3. So please do them. And then we will discuss them together. If there's anything you want to share, of course, put it in the Telegram chat. You can just reply. I don't know, but whatever way I made the Telegram chat, that's the way it works. You have to reply to something I post. So you can just reply to this week's post with any thoughts or comments. And I am so grateful that we do this book club. I am grateful for your time and your presence. And I hope that this is resonating and supporting you on a deeper level. There's no point in doing it if it's not, but I feel like it must be, because everyone keeps coming back. And share this with somebody. Share it with someone that needs to hear it. Let's grow this book club, and I'll see you next week. Have a beautiful, beautiful week, everybody.